time.
Oh.
In the name of God, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Amen. Please be seated. I'm going to set these here.
This is weird.
Good morning. This is my friend Jan. I think you all know Jan. Mm-hmm. And Jan is reluctant to accept the leadership role of the Stewardship Committee.
Oh, we made her do it anyway.
So I serve as its convener, and Jan serves as its mastermind. Is that a good job description?
I enjoy being a mastermind.
You're very good at it. And so, of course, the past couple weeks we've had a little bit of, is your mic on?
I think it is. Is my mic on?
Okay.
Yes.
Brian said yes. We've had these conversations about money. Jan did when I was away, you did a little bit of a reflection wrapping up last year's stewardship campaign, which was sort of themed around one more thing, one more for St. Mark's, and we'll get to what we're moving into. And then at the annual meeting, we talked about, or the parish picnic, the congregational meeting, we talked a little bit about where we are in our budget for the year. And so all of this is important as we move into stewardship. And I think my first question for you, I wrote questions if you need to, and they parallel to your notes.
Okay.
Why is it important to do a stewardship campaign?
It's a great question.
These are your
Okay.
answers.
So, we set our budget, right? We know only what we can plan for. So we look to you to help us set our budget. We have a pledge, and then we have donations for use of space, and we have all other things. But pledges make up 66%, 65.8% of our budget. So we can't create a budget without knowing what the pledges are. Here. So this is going to be kind of like podcast kind of format here. So you might ask a question, but I'm going to go wherever I feel like
That's
going.
fine.
So, as we look to create the budget, when we have your pledges, it's important that you recognize that a pledge is not a bill. It is not an invoice that you are sent once a month and that you have to pay. A pledge is more like a covenant. It's more like your gratitude in a form that we can recognize here.
A friend of mine works at a church.
You have another one?
I have a few of them.
Okay.
Works at a church in North Carolina, and they call their pledge campaign or stewardship campaign a commitment campaign, which I think is more to the point, because stewardship is one of these nebulous church words that normal people out there don't necessarily think of the same way that we do. In church we say it builds our budget, which is true, but it's sort of more to it than that, right? And it's a step. Commitment and stewardship are parallel things, but I think they're different. And whether next year we call the following year a commitment campaign is a different conversation, but when we think of stewardship, the lesson is that we're taking care of this community. What does stewardship mean to you?
It's everything you do after you say, I believe.
There you go.
There you go.
That's easy.
And to take care of the congregation, to take care of each other, and to take care of yourself. We come here oftentimes thinking, I have to go to church. And I can't think of a time that I have left church that I didn't feel measurably better than when I walked in. And it's time of quiet and reflection, and it's the commitment to that we share it.
Yeah.
The care and sharing. Stewardship.
Yeah. That's good.
Yeah, okay. Next.
That won't fit on a postcard, though. But I like that. It's everything you say after I believe. Because it is very much the heart of what we do, beyond prayer, beyond worship. You know, stewardship is the sort of web that clings it all together. Yeah. So we've talked a lot about our budget for 2024 the past few weeks. So when we look at those numbers, what trends do we see?
So we are below the pledged amount for 2024. And I don't know if you remember, but last year we increased our pledges by almost 29%.
29?
Is that right, Kathy? And we are about $16,000 below our pledged amount. Now, this does not mean it's time to call in the brigades, because some people pledge at the end of the year knowing that there are ebbs and flows of expenses. So there are some people that pledge at the end of the year, but this is a not so gentle reminder that it still matters. If you're behind in your pledge, you can make it up. It's okay. And the other thing to remember is when you pledge, you can change your pledge. If you lose your job, you can change your pledge down. If you get a great new job, you can go up. It's fully negotiable with God.
Yeah. And it still impacts our budget,
Right,
right?
right.
Is there any, well,
Yes, so two other things,
Yeah, go ahead.
because I'm like this. One is,
that's why you're doing it.
yeah, one is that it is, I don't know if anybody here has raised children and you talk about how to save money. And when I talk to my kids about how to save money, I said, pay yourself first. If you take money and your paycheck comes in and you put $50 in the bank, you will never notice the $50 gone. And if you get a raise and it's $25 more and you put $25 more in the account, you'll never notice $25 more. You can do a pledge from your bank that's automatic and comes here. And yes, I know there's a great feeling of putting a check or a bill or your envelope into the plate. It's a great feeling. It's also a great feeling for the treasurers and the people who manage to bill the bills to know every month they're going to get the same amount coming in. It helps us plan our cash flow. So prayerfully consider whether you would, even if it's part of your pledge, and you want to put money in the envelope too. But if you can do some kind of get it here without thinking about it, trust me, you don't miss it. I go to the grocery store and I miss every penny I spend at the grocery store. I don't miss what I spend here. And it also helps if, like me, you forget. I forgot my money. I don't remember where I am with my pledge. I think I pay every week, but I don't know. And then you get something at the end of the year and you go, oops.
Or the middle of the year.
Or the middle of the year. So let's minimize the oopsies.
So looking at the budget, what are the biggest parts of the budget? And what goes into the budget?
The biggest part of the budget. The second biggest part of the budget. The buildings and the staff. They're both blessings.
And curses. I'm a curse.
I think not. I mean, we can have all different conversations about the building and the rector, because there's a school of thought that says you do anything to keep the rector full-time. And there's a school of thought that says, maybe a half-time rector is enough. And that's scary, because we all grew up in congregations with many more people, and the rector was busy all the time. We're a smaller congregation.
I'm still busy all the time.
You're still busy all the time. I'm just suggesting that with a talent as large and bold and engaging as this one, there might be room for another small little parish. I'm not really suggesting that, but it's something to think about, because the reality is the building and the rector. One is immediate needs. One is something that we pay every week and every month, and we contribute to the pension and the health care and all of those things. And one is something that maybe goes a year or 2 or 5 without any investment, and then needs a big one. So it's just something to think about. But then there's also a whole bunch of other things, like supply priests, the copier, office supplies, regular maintenance of the church. Who cleans it? What else? What are the other ones? Oh, advertising and marketing. Tech. Getting stuff out there, supporting our webpage. These are all expenses. Heat, electricity, water. I don't know if you guys remember 2 years ago, last year?
Well, both years, actually.
Yeah, there was a little leak.
A little
That added
5,000.
zeros to the end of the water bill. It's not fun. It's not fun. And by the way, when that happens, that's not part of our budget. So we had a balanced budget last year, 2024. We had a balanced budget. But that's the budget. That may not be the actual expenses. And you need to keep that in mind.
And something that I said at the parish picnic was that there are really good things, and this is in your letter, I think I included this, a balanced budget. There are good things about a balanced budget, and there are bad things. Because think of the things that have to be cut back or excluded because we can't afford to do it. You know, think about the sharing shed is really our big ministry that faces outside. It's the one thing that we do consistently, that we do really passionately, and it's one of the smaller items in the budget.
So since I'm a numbers girl, pledges are 65.8% of the budgeted income. And staff salary and building support, those two big things, are 75.9%. They're not that far apart. They're just not that far apart. So begin with the end in mind. What are we asking for? Right? It's unrealistic for us to think that we're going to ask you guys to increase your pledges enough to cover the whole budget. It's just unrealistic. Expenses have gone up everywhere. We know that. But if we could increase our pledge amount from 65.8 to 75, or get really close, that makes everything easier. And we lost some people in the parish last year. We lost significant pledges last year. And so we ask prayerfully for you to consider how your pledge matters in this campaign.
So last year, we had this theme of one more for St. Mark's, one more thing, and we kept up with it through the year, all of these different things you could do to do one more thing. Tell us about this year's pledge theme.
This year's theme is just make it matter. Right? We talked about those things in the budget. I'm going to use my notes because I can't remember all of this stuff. So there are 36 pledges last year. 11 were under $20 a week. Now, those pledges are as meaningful as the 6 that were over $100 a week. Those pledges cover, one of those pledges covers the supply priests. One of those pledges might cover the budgeted building maintenance. One of those pledges might cover payroll processing fees, which for those people who are paid, if we couldn't process their payroll, that would be a big problem. So those things do matter, even though they're under $20 a week. And then there are 7 between $46 and $60 a week. Sorry, 6 between 20 and 45,
Yeah.
and 7 between 46 and 60. The 6 between 20 and 45 cover the annual payroll tax liability. They cover advertising and marketing. They cover office supplies or water and electric. If you've ever sat here in the dark,
Or the cold.
or the cold, well, that's heat, that's next one. But if you've ever sat here in the dark and you don't have your readers, you can't read, and it's really hard to participate in a service. So those things matter. And if you're at $46 and you can get to $52, well, then you're covering that and maybe another supply priest. Or maybe that goes to the rector or the building or the air conditioning or the unbudgeted expenses that we have. And so we have gas, heat, staff, insurance, apportionment. The apportionment is 8% of our budget.
About that, yeah. 8.5.
So that's whatever, $11,000, something like that.
13.
Is it 13?
That sounds right.
It's got
Yeah.
3 zeros after it and it's under 15. So it's a number. It's a number. And so when you're pledging, whatever you're pledging, it matters. It matters to everyone around you because we can't do it without everything that we have. We can't do it without the supply priest. We can't do it without the office supplies. We can't do it without all the things that go into the budget. It matters. Make it matter. Make it
Yeah.
matter.
I really like this.
Oh, we're going to do that.
Oh, you're,
No.
well, you go ahead.
We haven't
and do
gotten
that.
there. Oh, we haven't gotten
I
there.
didn't,
Okay.
I didn't have a.
Oh, that's 5. You didn't have a question. Okay, so number 5 is ... That means I was supposed to just know to continue.
Yeah.
So stewardship is everything you do after you say, I believe. And it's also giving of money and time and talent and treasures. And treasures isn't necessarily bringing what you have to church. It's also sharing what you have outside of church and bringing something into the church and bringing a friend into the church. And we talk a lot about, are there people in the community that are looking for a church? It's easy to say no. But the answer is, we don't know. We don't know what's going to inspire someone to come into this church and find meaning here. Corinthians says, that these three remain: faith, hope, and love. But the greatest of these is love. Stewardship season, there are also three words: commit, give, and serve. And the greatest of these is still love. We talked about a lot of different words, about being creative, about engaging not only with one another, but with the community at large. Kathy asked me to write a poem. I am so not that creative. But here are the words. And think about what you can do both in and out of this church community. Create, organize, value, commit, prepare, invite, serve, give, shift, grow. And we can't forget, flourish and rejoice. So we're going to distribute the cards now. We probably need help.
I'm pulling out the ones of people who are here to make it that much easier.
Okay. On the third, you're just going to give it directly to her now.
That's fine.
On the third, we're going to ask you to bring your stewardship card to church. And we're going to ask you to present it to the alderman. If you don't have a card, there will be cards here, so you don't have to go home because you forgot your card. We promise we got you covered. It is just a symbol as you walk your cards up to the altar of your commitment and your service to us, to yourselves, and to one another. When are we doing the budget? When's the budget meeting?
November.
Sometime in November.
So
It's not on the calendar yet.
it's not on the calendar. So we'd love to have the pledges back on the 3rd. If you forget the 10th, you can mail them in if you forget both times. But they matter. They matter to us. Make it matter to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions? Anything that's come up that you think we should include?
One of the things that really is extremely meaningful to me, which is part of staff, is Connie's beautiful service.
Absolutely.
Connie did such a beautiful job for us,
Yes.
and both the piano and the organ, and it's always so fun, because I get there early to listen to her practice. It's like, oh, yeah, we're gonna do, we're gonna sing this, and oh, hey, I like that.
Yeah.
So Connie adds so much to us,
I agree.
and thank you so much, Connie.
I very often think that Connie is actually far more important than I am.
Well, I'm sure she'd like your salary.
It is one thing to have worship on Sunday that includes Eucharist, but I think including music is more important sometimes. Not that Eucharist is not important, but Eucharist without music. You know, those old 8 o'clock services where it was spoken. Some people like it, but I think music adds so much to it. So that's an important thing
Yeah.
that we have.
75.9. Keep Connie. Keep
Yeah,
Connie.
so do spend some time in prayer. Your envelopes contain the stewardship letter that your committee drafted. a nice little card that very nicely will fit on your refrigerator, so you can look at it throughout the year and say, oh yes, let me give this extra $5 that I found in the McDonald's parking lot. Let me give that to St. Mark's, you know, that sort of thing. And then the pledge card itself, and that's what you'll bring back in 2 weeks' time. Thank you all.
Thank you.
If you have questions, your stewardship committee is Jan, Kathy, Linda, Ed, Daryl.
Right.
That's on the paper. That's everyone. Thank you. Take that over.